We're all in this together. If you just heard those opening notes and felt a rush of pure nostalgia mixed with the urge to break into choreographed dance moves, congratulations! You experienced the most magical era of television movies ever created. And if you have no idea what that song is, you missed the phenomenon that turned Friday nights into appointment television for an entire generation. From 1997 to 2007, Disney Channel original movies weren't just TV movies. They were cultural events that stopped conversations, cleared out malls, and made staying home on a Friday night the coolest thing you could possibly do. But here's what most people don't realize. Disney Channel original movies didn't hit different because they had bigger budgets or better actors than other TV movies. Nickelodeon had Nick movies. Cartoon Network had their original films. So why did Disney Channel original movies become the defining entertainment experience of the early 2000s? Why did kids organize sleepovers around Disney Channel original movie premieres? Why did movies with cheesy dialogue, obvious green screen effects, and plots that made no logical sense somehow feel more real and meaningful than big-budget Hollywood blockbusters? The answer isn't what you think. Because what made Disney Channel original movies hit different wasn't just about entertainment at all. It was about three revolutionary changes to how kids understood themselves, their potential, and what it meant to be special in a world that constantly told them they were ordinary. But before we understand why Disney Channel original movies became so powerful, we need to understand just how limited and predictable kids' entertainment was before they changed everything. To understand why Disney Channel original movies hit different, we need to go back to 1996, when movies made for kids and teenagers followed the same tired formulas, delivered the same predictable messages, and treated young audiences like they couldn't handle anything more complex than basic moral lessons. If you were a kid in the mid-90s, your movie options were pretty limited. You had big-budget family films that were designed to entertain parents as much as kids, which meant they often talked down to younger audiences. You had after-school specials that were basically lectures disguised as entertainment. And you had Saturday morning cartoons that were fun but forgettable. Most movies for kids followed the same basic template. Ordinary kid faces ordinary problem, learns obvious lesson, everything works out perfectly with no real consequences or complexity. The characters were one-dimensional, the conflicts were simple, and the resolutions were so neat and tidy that they felt completely disconnected from real life. And then in February 1997, Disney Channel premiered Under Wraps. And while it wasn't an instant classic, it signaled the beginning of something that would completely transform what movies for kids could be. But it wasn't until 1998 with Brink that Disney Channel found their formula. And it was unlike anything that had come before. The first time you watched a Disney Channel original movie, something felt different. These weren't just movies about kids, they were movies that understood what it actually felt like to be a kid in ways that no other entertainment had ever captured. I remember watching Smart House in 1999 and being completely mesmerized. Here was a movie about a teenager who wins a computerized house that becomes obsessed with his family. The premise was ridiculous, the special effects were obviously fake, and the dialogue was cheesy even by Disney standards. But somehow, it felt more real than any realistic movie I'd ever seen. Because Smart House wasn't really about a computer house, it was about the fear of losing your mother, the anxiety of family change, and the desperate desire to control your environment when everything around you feels chaotic and unpredictable. And that's when I realized what made Disney Channel original movies so special. They used fantastical premises to explore real emotional truths that other movies were too afraid or too lazy to address. But Disney Channel original movies' first revolutionary change wasn't just about emotional honesty. It was about treating kids like they were capable of handling complex, nuanced stories about identity, belonging, and self-discovery. Before Disney Channel original movies, most entertainment for kids assumed that young audiences couldn't handle moral ambiguity, complicated relationships, or stories where the right choice wasn't immediately obvious. Characters were either good or bad, problems had clear solutions, and everyone learned their lesson by the end credits. But Disney Channel original movies introduced something revolutionary. Protagonists who were genuinely flawed, conflicts that didn't have easy answers, and stories where doing the right thing sometimes meant making difficult sacrifices or accepting uncomfortable truths. Take The Other Me from 2000. The main character literally splits into two versions of herself, one who's responsible and studious, and one who's fun and spontaneous. Instead of declaring one version right and the other wrong, the movie explored the idea that both sides of her personality were valuable and necessary. This was revolutionary because it told kids that they didn't have to choose between being good and being interesting, between following rules and being authentic, between pleasing adults and being true to themselves. Or consider Motocrossed from 2001, which tackled gender roles and family expectations in ways that were surprisingly sophisticated. The protagonist has to pretend to be a boy to compete in motocross, but the movie doesn't just focus on the deception. It explores the complex family dynamics, societal pressures, and personal identity issues that created the situation in the first place. These movies trusted their young audiences to understand nuance, to grapple with complexity, and to find their own meaning in stories that didn't provide easy answers. But Disney Channel original movies' second revolutionary change was even more profound. They created a shared cultural experience that made every kid feel like they were part of something special and exclusive. Before Disney Channel original movies, there was no entertainment specifically designed for the in-between demographic. Kids who were too old for cartoons but too young for teen dramas, who wanted stories that acknowledged their growing independence while still celebrating their childhood imagination. Disney Channel original movies filled this gap perfectly, creating content that felt sophisticated enough to be taken seriously, but fantastical enough to be pure escapism. And here's what made this shared experience so powerful. Disney Channel original movies created appointment television in an era when most kids' entertainment was available anytime, anywhere. When a new Disney Channel original movie premiered, it was an event. You had to be watching at 8 p.m. on Friday night, or you'd miss it completely. There was no DVR, no streaming, no way to catch up if you weren't there for the premiere. This created a sense of urgency and exclusivity that made every Disney Channel original movie feel like a special occasion. I remember the elaborate rituals my friends and I developed around Disney Channel original movie premieres. We'd plan sleepovers weeks in advance, stock up on snacks, and spend the entire day building anticipation for whatever magical story Disney was about to unveil. And because everyone was watching at the same time, Disney Channel original movies created instant shared cultural references that connected kids across the entire country. On Monday morning at school, you could assume that everyone had seen the same movie, which meant you could quote lines, reference scenes, and bond with classmates over shared experiences. This was particularly powerful during the early 2000s, when kids were just beginning to fragment into different entertainment niches. Disney Channel original movies were one of the last truly universal experiences that brought together kids from different backgrounds, different interests, and different social groups. But Disney Channel original movies' third and most revolutionary change was how they redefined what it meant to be special in a way that was both empowering and achievable. Before Disney Channel original movies, most entertainment for kids fell into two categories: stories about ordinary kids who stayed ordinary, or stories about extraordinary kids who had powers or abilities that normal kids could never have. But Disney Channel original movies introduced a third option: stories about ordinary kids who discovered they were extraordinary in ways that felt possible and attainable. The protagonists of Disney Channel original movies weren't superheroes or chosen ones in the traditional sense. They were kids who discovered hidden talents, developed unexpected abilities, or found the courage to pursue dreams that seemed impossible. But their powers were always rooted in real human qualities: creativity, determination, empathy, or the willingness to be authentically themselves. Zenon, Girl of the 21st Century, wasn't about a girl with superpowers. It was about a girl who refused to conform to expectations and found strength in her individuality. Johnny Tsunami wasn't about a magical surfer. It was about a kid who used his passion for surfing to navigate cultural differences and find his place in a new environment. These movies told kids that they didn't need to be born special or chosen by destiny. They could become special by embracing their authentic selves, pursuing their passions, and refusing to let other people define their limitations. And here's what made this message so powerful. It came at exactly the right moment in these kids' developmental journey. The target audience for Disney Channel original movies was kids aged 8 to 14, which is precisely when children are beginning to form their individual identities, question authority figures, and wonder whether they have anything unique or valuable to offer the world. Disney Channel original movies arrived at this crucial moment and said, Yes, you are special. Yes, you have something unique to offer. And yes, you can achieve extraordinary things, not because you're chosen or gifted, but because you're willing to be brave enough to be yourself. But perhaps the most important reason Disney Channel original movies hit different was their perfect timing. They premiered during a unique moment in American culture when kids needed exactly the kind of hope and empowerment these movies provided. The late 1990s and early 2000s were a strange time to be a kid. The internet was emerging but hadn't yet taken over social interaction. 9/11 had introduced a new level of anxiety and uncertainty into childhood. School shootings were becoming a regular news story. Kids were growing up faster but also feeling more powerless than previous generations. In this environment, Disney Channel original movies offered something incredibly valuable. Stories that acknowledge the complexity and difficulty of growing up while still maintaining an optimistic belief that individual kids could make a difference in their own lives and the lives of others. These movies didn't pretend that being a kid was easy or that all problems could be solved with positive thinking, but they did insist that every kid had the potential to be the hero of their own story, and that being different or weird or passionate about something unusual was actually a superpower rather than a liability. And here's what made Disney Channel original movies so emotionally resonant. They understood that kids weren't just waiting to become adults. They were living full, complex emotional lives right now, and those lives deserved to be taken seriously and celebrated. Looking back now, it's clear that Disney Channel original movies represented something we didn't fully appreciate at the time. The last great shared cultural experience designed specifically for kids, created at a moment when childhood itself was becoming more complicated and uncertain. The kids who grew up watching Disney Channel original movies became adults who valued authenticity, creativity, and the belief that ordinary people could do extraordinary things. We learned that being different was something to celebrate rather than hide, that following your passion was worth the risk, and that the most important superpower was the courage to be yourself. Sure, the movies were cheesy. The special effects were obviously fake. The dialogue was sometimes cringe-worthy. But they gave us something that no other entertainment provided: the belief that we were special exactly as we were, and that our dreams were worth pursuing no matter how impossible they seemed. Disney Channel original movies hit different because they arrived at exactly the right moment to tell a generation of kids that they didn't need to wait for permission to be extraordinary. They just needed to be brave enough to be themselves. And honestly, in a world where kids today are constantly comparing themselves to others on social media and feeling pressure to be perfect before they've even figured out who they are, maybe we could all use a little more of what Disney Channel original movies offered. The radical belief that being weird, passionate, and authentically yourself is the most magical thing of all. If this brought back memories of your own Disney Channel original movie obsession, please subscribe to the channel and check out the videos on your screen. There's so much more nostalgic entertainment history to explore together.